Well, Pauline, we're coming into a very important election in 2025, a couple of months away maybe. And so there are some important policies which are really resonating with people.
Well, it is. Look, the family government has not really addressed the concerns of the Australian people. Cost of living is high on the agenda, the list. Climate change is another one that's very important, and of course they want to address the tax, heavily taxed country. So our policies, what we've put out there, are realistic, doable and can happen. Like we want to slash $90 billion a year from funding or over a period of time, because if part of it is to shut down the climate change department, we don't need it. And that
Climate change fraud you're talking about?
You know, yeah.
And the important thing, Pauline, is that this is not some promise for 4 or 5 years, 10 years' time. This is happening now. As soon as we get into the new parliament, it'll happen now. And as you pointed out, the most important thing for people right now is putting more money in people's pockets. And the way we're going to do that is take known areas of waste in government, as you said, $90 billion worth of waste and duplication, and carve that out of the budget and put it into putting more money in people's pockets and paying off the debt and building an investment in infrastructure so that people in the future, their children, can have more money in their pockets.
It is. Look, we're not being reckless about this because they've got schemes that are unworkable, like $19 billion for hydrogen. Hydrogen is further down the track. It costs more electricity to produce hydrogen and then the storage of it. So that's just all pie in the sky dreams and fear-mongering that's happening. So, you know, the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration, should be rolled over in the health department. It's funded by pharmaceutical companies. They've got a big interest in it, not you, the taxpayer. So that needs to go out. NDIS has to be reined in. Another one, $50 to $52 billion, expected to reach about $90 to $100 billion by 2030-32. So this is all taxpayer wasted monies that should be cut and slashed and burned where it can to save money and give services to the Australian people.
And the key ones for putting more money in people's pockets are, first of all, income tax splitting for a couple, filing one joint return. A person on the average income will pay about $10,000 less for living in Australia after our changes come into place. And that's the other one is
I'll just
26
expand
cents.
on that, Malcolm,
Okay.
so people understand income splitting. So if you're a couple with dependent children, so say your income is $120,000, you can split that income to $60,000 each when you do your tax returns. That will give that household a saving of $10,000 a year. It encouraged either male or female to stay home and with the child or children, and it'll save on childcare, which our bill at the moment is $15 billion a year, and childcare services, and they want to increase that even more. So health issues, it all goes into it, and helping those families, because under family stress plus cost of living, this is a breakdown of families that's happening, domestic violence, and I think it will help. The other one we've got is the aged and veterans. Pensioners can work unlimited hours and will not affect their pensions. Just work the hours, pay your tax like any other Australian, and it won't affect your pension. And the third one, which we've right across the board, is independent self-funded retirees over the age of 67, because you're entitled to pension age, but you're not a drain on the taxpayer. Let's raise your threshold from $18,600 up to $35,000 before you then are taxed on it. So we're trying to incentivise all Australians, you know, and give them more money into the pockets, and I think it's really good policies. This is doable. You have 2 senators here. We've been in Parliament now. I've been in here for nearly 9 years. We have changed so much in this Parliament to fight for you, and we intend to do that.
And I must say, before I get on to more measures to put more money in people's pockets, it's an absolute delight and an honour to work with you. We've been together now about 10 years, about 9 years in the Senate. It's amazing how time flies. But you always tell the truth, you always know what you're doing, and you've got that gut instinct, which I'm still developing. So thank you so much. I'm extremely honoured to work with you. The other thing for putting more money in people's pockets is cutting electricity prices by about 20%, and then ultimately by about 50%. But 20% just by rejigging the national electricity market, which is really a racket, as you know, a bureaucratic racket, not a market. But rejig that to make it favour coal rather than, at the moment, coal-fired power stations are blowing up because they're being maintained and managed so damn poorly because of the national electricity market. The other thing is cutting fuel excise on petrol and diesel by 26 cents a litre. That'll save 26 cents a litre. But the other beautiful thing I love about our policies is not only are they good for individuals, but they're good for the whole economy, because they'll have a huge effect on decreasing inflation, which will decrease interest rates, which will decrease your home mortgage payments. And so we've got that all wrapped up. It's a lovely thing. The Reserve Bank would love our policies.
Certainly would. One we haven't said, and this has been on my agenda for the last 30 years, is accountability in the Aboriginal industry. And what I've called for all the time is equality for all Australians, regardless of your race, colour, creed. Everyone should be treated on an individual needs basis, not based on race. Quite interesting, Michaela Cash said that on the floor of the chamber the other day, Liberals are saying now it is not about race, it's about need. Well, you threw me out, the Liberal Party threw me out of their party 30 years ago for saying exactly that. So finally they've caught up with me. Have a think about what I have been saying for the last 30 years, and I've been pretty much on the money. I've called it out for what it is. So they are not future thinkers, we are. And we know what this country needs to actually get it back on its feet, the prosperity, put more money in the pockets of Australians, and actually bring pride back into our country as well. And that's what we are fighting for. And I was the first one to come out against The Voice. We're the first ones to come out against COVID. We have been the first one on many issues, and we're the first one to put up some decent policies that Australians can vote for.
And speaking of things in the national interest, we're going to be pulling out of the United Nations World Health Organization, and also the International Criminal Court. Thank you. What's the title of that? The International United Nations Refugee Convention.
That's right.
Yeah,
the one, human rights, my God. So anyway,
we need to run the country for Australians by Australians, not foreigners.
Certainly are, and we are.
And the other thing, so we cut about at least $90 billion in spending. $40 billion of that will go into your pockets directly, and the next one is $20 billion will go every year into infrastructure so that we can develop the future of this country.
And we've got to pay down our debt. Just to let
That's
you
the
know,
other 20.
That's right, we're hitting $1 trillion in debt. This government has increased by $360 billion since they've been in. And to tell you another thing too, our interest rates at the moment are about $36 billion a year, and by next year expected to increase to $50 billion a year. That's no future generation can deal with that. That's why we need to pay down debt, and that's what we will push for, but not at the expense of Australians' quality of life and standard of living.
And we've already got plans for building more dams, which will flood-proof some cities. We're thinking of North Queensland right now, but elsewhere. But also provide water for opening up irrigation areas, which will be dramatic improvement in economics, and also providing more water to Moranbah and Central Queensland for industrial development. Yeah. But also the National Rail Circuit. We'll build the National Rail Circuit. We'll extend the inland rail up to Gladstone, which is the prime port in this country. It's set up to be the #1 port in this country. When you understand a massive area and a small population, logistics is extremely important, and Australia does a terrible job at that at the moment. We can dramatically reduce the time it takes to send goods from anywhere in Australia through Gladstone, and the time it takes for goods to come into Gladstone and go to anywhere in Australia, and reduce the cost dramatically. So we'll have a major advantage in that. And that's coming up with private investment that we have led the way on.
Malcolm, let's inform the people out there about our immigration policy.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, the big thing is that the Albanese Greens government, supported by some of these independents, Jackie Lambie and Tammy Tyrrell and David Van and David Pocock, my God, Doormat Dave, I call him anyway, and Lydia Thorpe and Payman now. You know, the problem with our country, they're all bleeding hearts, and I'm sorry. I look after the interest of the Australian people, and I call out for the way that I see it. I don't know if people are aware of it. We've actually got over 75,400 to be precise, people in the country illegally.
75,400
that have come in the country. And you know why they don't deport them or do anything about it? Because it costs them more to actually round them up, put them before the courts.
So they don't want to round them up.
No, they don't. So they don't do anything about it. So it's saying a message to all their family and friends overseas, come on down. You can actually overstay your visa, and they won't do anything about it. Not good enough, especially when we have a housing crisis at the moment. Also under the Albanese government, we've actually had an increase of average about 700,000 migrants coming in a year.
A year.
1.4 million we've had coming here. So we want to cut that back to 130,000 a year until we actually get it into a managed area where we don't have, people sleeping on the streets and in tents and families. These are working people.
That's basically stopping immigration, because there'll be a number leaving and only a number coming in to balance it. So we're basically saying stop immigration until every Australian has a roof over his or her head and has a bed they can sleep in. We've got Queensland, one of the richest states in the world, with people sleeping, working families coming home to their cars to join their kids in the car for the night. Where do they toilet? Where do they shower?
Yeah. So the Australian people, the ones that suffered because of this and the cost of living, they only did it to prop up the gross domestic product of the country. And the big businesses are calling for they can sell more product. It's not in your interest.
That's because we're in a per capita recession. We have been for about a year and a half, 2 years, per capita recession, and they're trying to hide it by bringing in massive numbers of people. But that's increasing inflation as well.
It is, and we want national security, so only bring people into the country from countries that are like-minded, compatible with our laws, our culture, and don't bring in your ideologies or fundamentalist extremism. Don't want them here, okay? Don't even bring them in the first place.
And what about a favourite of yours, protecting Medicare so that it actually works? Because Medicare, at the moment, some of the people who are here illegally, they've got multiple people on their Medicare cards.
Well, it is, because people coming into the country, they actually take friends of families' Medicare card, goes to the doctor. One case, and I've got to tell you this, took a friend's Medicare card. He was Macedonian, went to the hospital with his friend's Medicare card, was admitted to hospital, died. They thought this person whose card it really owned, who it belonged to, he was the one who died. He had to admit that it wasn't his card. So this is a scam that's going on. I was told this by the federal police in my first term in Parliament in 96, 97 about people scamming it, and also they go to the doctor, use the Medicare card, get scripts for medications, and then they take it back to their country or they sell it in the black market. So you're paying for it. Our prescriptions PBS scheme is costing us $16 billion, expected to rise to $20 billion a year. So that's how much it's costing us in PBS. Plus your Medicare, that's why we don't have a lot. I want to put a photo on your Medicare card of who you are so no one else can use it as a scam.
And we'll be also thinking about the fact that a lot of the identity we can do with photo on cards rather than digital identity. We've repealed many of the...
It's like your driver's licence, okay? You've got a photo on your driver's licence, prove who you are and stop people scamming it. And it's such a cost to the taxpayer. It's estimated up to $3 billion a year is scammed off Medicare. So these are things we want accountability on your behalf to save the tax dollars. Then we can put more money into your dollars, get rid of a lot of these public servants, bureaucrats, some of these departments, education, duplication, give it back to the states.
Which is where it should be in the Constitution.
Yep.
We're not doing anything illegal. We're just pruning money out of this fat, bloated government that doesn't give a damn about people.
We are a party. We are here to represent you as we have done for the last 9 years. You know, it's not pie in the sky dreams. These are things that can be actually achieved, especially if we get the balance of power after this next election. So it's in your hands. What do you really want for your future, your well-being and your security of this nation? The only way you can go is to vote One Nation. And I hope we get your support. It's very important because I'm fighting, not only for myself, my kids, and I'll admit that. I've got self-interest in here, but I love my country and I love my fellow Australians and I want to do the right by you. So I hope that you get behind us. And if you can help us in election time to get this man re-elected, he's up for re-election. Fantastic work, mate. We've worked so well together. So if you can get behind Malcolm and all my other candidates, especially in the Senate, that's where we can make a big difference. So thank you, Greg.
And thanks for letting me be myself and turning me loose so we can do whatever we need to do to fix this joint.
Other people love it. They keep saying they love your representation. They said you've done a great job.
Well, all I'm doing is copying you, because what you do is you listen and then you speak up on their behalf and then you push for policies in the national interest. That's very simple philosophy to address. And I've got to keep doing that, otherwise I might find your foot in my backside.
All right, thanks, Malcolm. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.